Using a 10mm wrench, we're going to go ahead and disconnect our battery terminals. And set those aside. I'm going to go ahead and remove these 6 plastic pins holding the radiator shroud in place. Using our trim tool, go ahead and pop out these center buttons. And pop out the clip. Do this for all 6. And grab the trim, and we're going to pull it backward. We'll pull this out here, get both sides out. Go ahead and set that aside. Next, we want to go ahead and remove these 2 plastic buttons here using our trim tool. Just pop those out. We can go ahead and separate this upper portion of our intake from our lower. Let's go ahead and get our socket and extensions onto this 10mm right here. Go ahead and remove that bolt there. We can remove our lower intake tube. We're going to remove our battery hold-down bracket. We're going to use our 10mm socket to loosen and remove these bolts or the nuts with the J-hooks. Go ahead and remove the battery. I want to go ahead and remove our tray here. We have to disconnect our harness from this tray. I'm just going to use our trim tool. Pop that button out and pull the tray out. Using a 10mm socket, we want to go ahead and remove this bolt here, holding our bracket and wiring harness here. Pop that off, set that aside. I'm going to go ahead and put the screw right back in place. remove our coolant reservoir. I want to go ahead and disconnect our expansion hose here to the radiator. I'm going to use a pair of pliers and gently grab this hose and twist that off. Don't squeeze too hard. You don't want to crack the port on the radiator. Grab the expansion tank, and we're going to pull directly up on this. The unit is held in place by this back section, just pressed into a retainer tab here. Let's go ahead and set that aside. I'm going to go down right between the two fans, and there's going to be a wiring harness right there. Go ahead and separate that harness from the fan. That's going to expose the two connectors. Now I want to go ahead and disconnect the plug. Have that separated. Remove these two 10mm bolts. Grab the fan. Go ahead and pull that up and out. Down in the lower corner of the driver's side of this fan is going to be a connector. Press down on the tab. Go ahead and separate that harness. Use a 10mm socket and remove the two bolts on the top. On the bottom side of this fan is the wiring harness for the other fan. We're going to use our trim tool. I'm going to pop on in here and separate that. Go ahead and work that fan over and up. Right here is our drain valve for our radiator. We want to go ahead and drain the coolant out of the radiator. We're going to go ahead and slide a catch can underneath. The coolant should run right through this section right here and into our can. Go ahead and reach down. Open this up. While that's draining, we'll go ahead and open up our radiator cap. Remove that. I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. Let's go ahead, loosen and slide our upper radiator hose clamp back using a pair of pliers. Grab that hose, give it a twist. Go ahead and work this off. Top of our radiator, we have two mounting brackets, one here on the driver's side, one on the passenger side. I'm going to remove the two 10mm bolts here, remove this bracket, and do the same for the passenger side. On the bottom of the radiator right here, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this harness from the sensor, press down on the tab, and work that off. In order to remove our radiator, we need to disconnect our lower radiator hose from the radiator. We can't get our tool on the bottom here properly, so we're going to disconnect up here, and we'll take the radiator out with the hull hose. Go ahead and grab that hose and gently work that off. I'm just going to pop our hose down there and give the radiator a tip. At this point here, let's go ahead and close up the drain on the radiator. Let's disconnect this harness from the bottom of the radiator Using our trim tool, pop in there and lift up on that little button right there. Grab the radiator and our hose, and we're going to go ahead and work this up and out. Using our trim tool, we're going to remove this plastic button here and this one beside it. And then we'll remove this little plastic shield and set this aside. On the top of our AC condenser, there is a bracket here that goes underneath and around in the front. There's a 10mm bolt holding it there. I'm going to go ahead and remove that bolt. And then there's one on the driver's side in the same spot. Let's go ahead and remove those. Going to use our 10mm socket and our 1/4 inch ratchet. Now on the passenger side front of our AC condenser, we have the AC lines. Before opening this system up, you want to make sure that it is properly evacuated. So you want to maybe have a shop professionally evacuate the system of the coolant before performing this task. I'm going to lift up on our condenser. And on the front side, there's going to be a 10mm bolt on the top for the upper hose, and there's one down below. Let's go ahead and loosen and remove those bolts. We are wearing safety glasses. The system has been properly evacuated, but in case there's a little bit of pressure still left in there, you want to make sure you're protected. With both of those bolts removed, let's go ahead and disconnect our AC lines. Now these normally have an O-ring on them, so you want to go ahead and remove this carefully. Let's go ahead and do the same for the bottom. Okay, so we have both of those disconnected. Let's go ahead and grab our AC condenser and slide this up and out. On the bottom of our AC condenser, you're going to have 2 rubber mounts. Just twist those off. I'm going to go ahead and swap that over to the new unit. Okay, line that up and simply press that on. Repeat for the other side. Let's go ahead and lower our condenser down into place. Our bottom AC line is held in by this little plastic retainer clip. It's going to be easy just to go ahead and pop that out. That's going to make it easier to install our lower line, having that little bit of flexibility there. All right, now we have our bolt installed and our lower line seated nicely. Just going to snug that bolt down. I'm going to repeat for the top. And once that bolt is bottomed out, we're just going to snug that down just a little bit. Make sure that the flange itself is flush with the face of the condenser on both the upper and lower. Let's go ahead and bring our condenser over and set the base, those rubber inserts, into our lower support. And then we'll make sure our side AC line is popped into their little plastic retaining clip over here. On our hoses, we're opting to replace these rusty clamps with some regular hose clamps. I'm going to pop that off, get a reinstall or install one of these here. Do the same for this side here. We'll install our condenser brackets. So our bracket lined up, and we're installing our bolt from the front side. Let's go ahead and repeat for the passenger side. Now that we have both of those bolts started, let's go ahead and snug them down. You just want to make sure those are snug. All right, snug. Our condenser is nice and secure. Let's lower our radiator down into position. Get our rubber bushings placed into the cross member there. I'm going to reach down inside, hook up our sensor, and install our lower radiator hose. Using our 15/16 socket, let's go ahead and snug down our hose clamp here. Do the same for the upper one. Install our harness retainer button into the mount right there. Install our passenger radiator bracket. Passenger side is marked R for right hand side. Repeat for the driver's side. Install your upper radiator hose. And tighten down our clamp. On the bottom of our fan, there's these two plastic stubs. We're going to go ahead and get those mounted into our tabs on the radiator. Just going to lower this down, slide this into place. And our bolt started here. Just going to go ahead and snug these down. Now these are plastic, so you want to be careful. You just want to snug those down gently. Once a bolt snugs just a little bit more. Want to reach down and grab the connector and plug that into the harness at the base of the fan. And take your radiator cap, line that up and twist that on. And lower down our fan, install the studs or posts into the radiator mount. Once those drop in, we'll install our 2 bolts on the top. Let's go ahead and snug those down. You want to lightly tighten these down. When it bottoms out, just go a little bit more. You're just holding plastic to plastic, so you should be good. You want to reach down front, grab your harness, slide that up and lock that into the other connector. And it'll snap right into place. Going to install our lower trim here. Snap those buttons in. Install your coolant reservoir by sliding it into this little mounting bracket here. Simply line that up. Go ahead and install your lower air intake tube. Go ahead and install our bracket here. Go ahead and snug that down. Now on our air intake tube, you want to go ahead and line up this bushing here with this mounting hole right here. You want to also make sure the air intake tube is connected down into the fender well intake tube. Let's go ahead and install our bolt. Before we tighten down the bolt to secure the intake tube here, let's go ahead and get our upper portion of the intake popped into place here. Snap that into place. And then that'll help us line up our ports right here, or our holes for our plastic retainers. And install your retainers. Once these are in, let's go ahead and tighten down that bolt down below. You just want to snug that down into place. And install our battery tray base. Let's go ahead and lower our battery down into place. Install our battery trim here. Let's go ahead and install our J-hook. Get our nut installed. Now that this is in place, let's go ahead and repeat for the other side. Lower our J-hook down. Now with these installed, we just want to snug these down just so that it holds the battery in place. So once that's snug, go ahead and repeat for the other side. You can install your terminals. Go ahead and snug these down. Go ahead and get your ground installed and do the same here. It's good. Open up the cap, pull the feed tube out, and let's go ahead and put in our funnel. We're going to go ahead and use the recommended coolant from the manufacturer. And there is a low line and a full line here. I'm going to go ahead and fill this up to the full line. Remove your funnel, install the tube, and secure the cap. Go ahead and feed this through your hood release handle. And this trim here should go underneath our bumper cover here. You want to gently work this underneath and work your way right around. Do this until we get all the way down to the driver's side. Let's go ahead and pop in our plastic buttons here. I'm going to go ahead and remove your radiator cap. So you're going to go ahead and grab a funnel, nice clean funnel, and go ahead and get this set up. I'm going to go ahead and fill up the radiator with the recommended coolant for the manufacturer on this vehicle. You want to go ahead and start up your vehicle. You want to let it run for about 20 to 25 minutes. You're going to add coolant as necessary. Once everything has been operating for a little bit and the thermostat has opened up and consumed your coolant that is in the reservoir here or in your funnel, you want to go ahead and top that off. At that point there, I'm going to go ahead and remove our funnel unit. Remove our adapter here. And go ahead and install your radiator cap. Now you want to go for a road test, check it out, let the vehicle cool down. Do not remove this cap after you've gone for a road test and tested everything. You want to also check your expansion tank. Make sure that the coolant level is in the proper full mark as well. At that point there, once your coolant and everything has been topped off, then you're good to go.